And we're back.
Hello.
Oh no, how embarrassing. I'm wearing the same thing I wore last time. Promise that I washed it. It was weeks ago.
Don't wash it. You want to build up that grime and
Oh yeah,
that,
exactly.
that
Yeah.
weathering,
That's what I'm doing. Yeah. I'm currently building up the weathering by
right?
doing a
You see these
podcast.
characters live in the same costume over and over again.
Oh, that's a whole episode right there of like, do these people smell? Do they smell?
Oh my God. I saw a really good, I can't remember who it was, but they shared a really good PSA of like, PSA Mandos, wash your flight suit.
I saw
And
that.
she was
Yeah.
like, please.
Yikes. Yikes. Was it like a con thing? Anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I was like, yeah, in addition to like hockey gear or something like that, I can only imagine that Mando flight suits get pretty gnarly.
It's really rough.
Yeah,
It's not something
yeah.
that I look forward to getting suited up in.
You're right, right. Oh, all those layers.
It's
Oh my
rough.
gosh.
Anyway,
Yeah.
hi everyone. We're
Hello.
back. This
Welcome
is the
back.
Iraq Rebellion. I'm Billy Maddox. With me is Kay Ryder. How you doing?
Good, good. Absolutely. Last time we were talking about the differences between, kind of the steps up from Disney bounding to Batu bounding to a closet cosplay to an actual cosplay to like that capital C. I'm the character I walked off the screen.
Right.
And how that pertains to fashion and what we're wearing. Um,
Right.
and, in addition to the shows and the movies and the comic books and everything, a big influence on people in this day and age is Batu and the Starcruiser. And we wanted to examine that.
I think it was a revolution of the mind. I think that happened. I
Oh,
think that opening up these like little worlds where people can actually walk around and become their own character a lot of times, and we'll get into that.
yeah.
I think it had such a huge impact, um, not only on like the parks themselves, but like cosplay and like what that means and everything. Like it's a huge impact.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely saw like, so wait, just gonna reiterate for those who didn't catch the earlier episodes or anything like that, Billy and I and some of our friends were in Disneyland. We were on Batu West last year for May the 4th for Star Wars Day. And a lot of folks don't know, but my brother came with me. He flew out where I'm originally from Michigan. So he flew out from Michigan to meet up. And he's not part of this group. He's not on social media. He was a LARPer in college, and I think he's actually getting back into it. But
He bested all of us.
so there was this, I have to tell the story because it was so funny. I was sitting there, I was watching a hockey game with my husband, and we were sitting on the couch, and like you and Zach Eskren, Mid-Rim Rebel, were emailing or messaging me about like, well, what's your brother wearing? And I was like, I don't know. He said he had a t-shirt, and you guys were like, a t-shirt? No way. And it became this huge deal. And so I went back to my brother. I was like, hey, listen, but let's talk about what you're wearing. And then he was like, oh, I didn't know. Yeah. And so I was like, bring a few things. I've got a few accessories here. And he
You'll
gets out
style
here and he
him.
opens. Yeah, I'm like, I'll help you style. And he
Yeah.
gets here because he flew out here to our house first, and we flew down together. And he shows me everything he's got. I'm like, you're gonna be fine. We'll add a couple of here's a cap that's too big for me. And he's like, cool, it fits my head. And I was like, I lent him a couple of Greeblies and stuff like that. And then you guys met him at the park, and you were like blown away.
Yeah, we were like, what how did you wait, was that acrylic? What would you use for that?
Right, yeah, because he's a mechanic, for a hobby. He's a mechanic and works on all his, like, he literally has like a Jeep and a truck and a motorcycle and an airplane that he is always working on.
Yeah.
And so it was really funny. And so when we got there to Batu, he said something to me that really clicked in my head. And he was like, oh my gosh, it's like the Renaissance Festival. Like, because we grew up at the Michigan Renaissance Festival. It was right down the road from our house. And he was like, I get it. I get this. And that's that influence, right? Where all of a sudden we're not wanting to just go to Disneyland and go get an autograph from Mickey and Donald Duck. We want to interact as if we live there, right? Or as if we live
Yes.
in that universe. And that's huge. That's like for the Star Wars fans, they had never had that before. And it's groundbreaking.
Yeah, I think in the run up to Batu opening, Galaxy's Edge opening,
Yeah.
I think they were using some kind of tagline like "Be your own hero" or something like that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I think I think they knew that they were creating something that was going to be immersive. And for however you feel out there of how immersive exactly it is, like
Yeah.
I think it is. Like I
Yeah.
don't really go there for the rides. I kind of go there just to
Right.
like walk around and stand up against the
Right.
wall or something. Like
Yep.
I just want to be there. Like I just
Yeah.
want to be there. And I think that tagline of like, I think it was something like I don't remember it exactly, but I think it was something like create your own story or like be your own hero or something like that as they were running up to the opening of it. Um, that really something happened to
Yeah.
my brain. I was like, wait, wait,
Yeah.
you said I could me, I could be
Absolutely.
I could be in there. Like I don't have to be somebody else. Like
Yeah.
I could just be in there. That's fine.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it really it, I think that happened to a lot of people, and I think the rise of the original character. I think I think there's a lot of credit that needs to be given to Galaxy's Edge, and in turn, the Star Cruiser. Obviously, that's a whole
Mhm.
other
Mhm.
monster.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, especially because you mentioned, and a couple of our other friends have mentioned, Claudia's said this as well, but being people being people who are not white, right? Like you were
Yeah,
like, "Oh my god, characters who look like me."
yeah.
Like these later characters that we have are like, "Yes, I can identify that." For you both or for anyone
Oh,
who is,
absolutely.
like grown up with this fairly white Star Wars cast, right? But and then I feel like is that even more for you to be like, "Yes, I am like fully
I'm
me."
in there.
And that's
Yeah,
okay, right? As this original
it's
character, like
it's been incredible. It's we've had a moment that I think many different like backgrounds have had their moment as of recent, but
yeah.
like as far as main characters go, the
Yeah.
Latinos are hitting hard right now. And I think it's
Yes, and
great. Like we've
which is
with
fantastic.
Poe and with Andor and
Oh,
with
yeah.
Ahsoka. I know that Ahsoka she's a to Grutan, but like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's a
Yes,
Latina playing her,
exactly.
and with the new game that's coming out, Kay Vess also being
Mhm.
played by someone from
Yeah.
Latin descent, and Pedro Pascal being
Yes,
Mandalorian. I
yes.
mean, all like
Right?
huge. That I think it was a what was it a Vanity Fair cover that had everyone. It had Ewan McGregor, but then it
Yeah.
had like Diego
A lot of the
Luna, Pedro
new
Pascal.
yes. Yeah.
Um, it's been great. It's been great. So that does, I never thought about it, but I think that
Yeah.
does also play into it of like, oh, wait a minute, that kind of looks like me. Like it really did affect me.
Yeah.
Representation does matter. It
Yeah.
really did hit me kind of hard when I saw
Yeah.
um, Oscar Isaac up there, and we
Yeah.
have like, and we look, almost identical.
Exactly.
So,
You're his stunt double. We all know that. Like, you
we
were
look
in the
almost
movies.
identical.
Yes.
So, it was really easy for me to, I don't know why I'm doing this voice now, but no, but he's from a similar country, like similar
Yeah.
country. He's from a neighboring country to me. Like
Yeah.
he's from Costa Rica, from Nicaragua.
Yeah.
He grew up in South Florida. So did I. He
Yeah.
went to Miami-Dade College. I think the main campus. I went to the North Campus. We're like a year apart in age.
Oh,
He then
geez.
moved to New York to go to Juilliard. I moved to New York to go to Parsons, two pretty
You're like
prestigious
the same
schools in there.
person.
Pretty much the same guy.
Pretty
You know what I
much.
mean? Like
I love it.
um,
Oh my
I went
god.
in. I did an audition for this movie. They didn't tell me what it was called, and I didn't get it. No, I'm kidding. No, but all of those similarities I
Yeah.
looked up afterwards because I was like,
Yeah.
who is this guy,
Who
right?
is
Because that was
this?
one of
Yeah.
his breakout roles. I mean, he's done other stuff and he's
Yeah.
always great, but it really made me look into his past, and I was like, who is he? And then I noticed all these similarities, and it just built that up so
Yeah.
much more for me as well. And like, we're kind of talking about representation now, but like,
Yeah, but I
but you
think
know,
that
yeah,
I think that that's a piece of it, don't you?
I
Is
think
that
so.
you can go to Batu and you can be like, "I belong here."
I
Like,
belong. Yeah,
my character is, like, woven in to this
yeah.
fabric now.
No, that's
I
true.
that's how I see it. Like, I love it. And I think that also, like, the more of us who are going to Batu, which we have a lot of friends in Southern California, even Northern California, who go there all the time. I'm always so jealous. I'm always saying that the Californian
Yeah,
people have all the fun. But I think that there are, because you mentioned that you're not there for the rides. A lot of our
yeah,
friends do go there and just hang out and interact, and they are,
yeah.
I think, becoming sort of this peripheral background noise that's helping make Batu what it is. I believe. I'm gonna
Absolutely,
go ahead and say it. Like, Disney,
absolutely.
hey, like,
No, I
our
think that's
crowd
probably they
is,
wanted that.
yeah, adding this layer, yeah, and I think the more that people do it, the better, right? Like,
I think so.
totally.
It makes it so much more fun. And I think,
Yeah.
you know, we at least we forget that there's a legion of cast members that are there too, and that makes
Yes.
their day a lot more fun
Yes.
as well.
Yes,
Because if they're just
right?
seeing, you know, if they're just seeing families come in and they're
Yeah.
coming on for the rides, sure,
Yeah.
they do their spiel, but like there isn't. It isn't the same as when they have a bit of back and forth,
Yes.
and they see that someone's just as into it as someone that like petitioned to get that job on Batu,
Yeah.
because you know that that does happen. It's like, please give
Right.
me Galaxy's Edge. Like
Yes.
I've been at Tomorrowland for 10 years.
Yeah, right. Right, absolutely, for sure. Absolutely, and they must, I mean, they've just, I know that there's so many amazing cast members, but they've gotta
Yeah,
just put some really phenomenal folks over there, and Galaxy's Edge,
absolutely.
like, they're also awesome. Like, any interaction I've ever had has been fantastic. Um,
Yeah.
so I think that then they, when they stepped it up to this Star Cruiser, right? Which like, we're gonna go ahead and say, like, neither Billy or I ever had a chance to make it on Star
No.
Cruiser, unfortunately. So we are one step removed from that experience. However, we've been able to watch people
Mhm.
ramping up for their experience, their first,
And
their second, their
helped some
third,
of them.
and
Like
help some of them. Yeah, actually, a lot of people have DM being like,
I've
"Oh,
styled some people on the Star
or
Cruiser.
like,
I
oh
have.
my gosh, I had like an influx. I think it was last spring. Right, it was after you and I met, it was after Burgundy Squadron, our little Rebel Scum social club friend group got started,
Oh,
and people would follow me for those reasons, but all of a sudden, there was, like, one day where a bunch of people followed me, and I was like, "What is going on?" And I said something in my stories being like, who shared, something of mine or whatever?" And some gal came on, she's like, "Oh, there's a Facebook group for people going on the Star Cruiser, and they mentioned your name as, like, go look at this person's outfits." And I was like, "Oh." So thank you, by the way. That was huge. I was, like, blown away. And so, we didn't go on, but we got to participate in that way, I think, by
yeah.
inspiring people, hopefully.
And once
Um,
the like when that was announced, when the Star Cruiser was announced, I was already sort of doing this everyday
yeah,
Star Wars thing. So I took that as an opportunity to like, well, I don't know if I'll be able to go. It was very early
okay.
on. I don't think it had
Yeah,
opened yet. We just the trailer had just dropped for
yes.
it, or whatever, the preview. I don't know if you
Yeah,
can call it a trailer, but
yeah.
um, had just come out, and we got an idea of 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 what the story they were trying to tell, not only in like the actual narrative story, but also this is a ship. It's kind of it's a cruiser class. It's a bit upscale,
Mhm,
but some stuff's gonna happen, right?
mhm,
And I think that brought a lot of people to my Instagram as well. I did this video on YouTube, and that was when I was still sort of bouncing back and
mhm.
forth between YouTube and Instagram. I've since like kind of left YouTube, but like
Okay.
not for any bad
Just
reasons or
just
anything
busy
like that.
because
Just
you're doing a million things, right?
I had two outfits on. How am I going to do an outfit on YouTube anyway? It's easier to take a picture. But I did like a full video of what I would wear, like what I would wear on the Star Cruiser, and I did like a full story of like, well, um, I was early stages of my OC, so I hadn't locked in a story, but it was a little bit about like he's an officer, so he's taking this like vacation, so he's wearing his like officer uniform rather than like dressed as a rebel.
Yeah.
And there's a funny part of the video where I was like, I think Disney wants you to think of this as like you're a rebel, but you're
Yeah.
going out to dinner. You're a rebel, but you're going to a quinceañera, like quinceañera.
Yes.
You're a rebel, but you're going to a banquet. Like you're a rebel, but you're. So I think that's
Step
like
it
they
up.
were
Be
like, yeah,
classy.
they were like, be classy, like don't come in all like dirty and stuff, right? So I did, I did getting context clues. I was like, well, I did an outfit for my arrival. I did like what I would wear during there. We now know that that's not really like the case. There's like different changes. People sometimes
Mhm.
like change 5 times when they're there. But I was
Yeah.
like, okay, I'll arrive a certain way. And I wanted to sort of hint at like a sort of pilot vibe, like I've landed my
Mhm.
ship and to dock,
Okay.
to dock with this giant freighter turned cruiser. Um, and then get dressed up in my more formal stuff, and then that's it. And then I was thinking maybe some kind of Lando-ish, like Lido deck, like
Yeah,
look,
yeah. Okay.
like on a cruiser. But we didn't really know what it was like
Yeah.
at that time. Um, but even with the Star Cruiser, like they wanted you to build your own story. I think they
Yeah.
really push that with both Galaxy's Edge and Star Cruiser. You are
Right.
someone in this world now,
Yeah.
and we need you to like play the part.
Yeah. 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 I
Yeah,
think giving that LARPing level of the Star Cruiser, like that extended, right? Because I feel like some people might not know exactly how to stay and interact in Batu all the time, maybe if they're new to it. But I think like really giving that, like, we're all playing this game together was such a push, right? And
yeah,
I think, you know, RIP, like Star Cruiser, I think that's going to keep going. I think that
yeah,
that fed enough people, that were looking for that, and that are now, all of our friends, right? Like,
yeah.
are still holding that kind of level of play in what they're doing with this. I think it'll last, like,
And I
that
think
mentality.
ultimately all of us since we were kids, we've wanted to be in this universe. Like
Yes.
sure, like we love like the heroes and we love the stories, but we're like, I just kind of want to like, I don't know, be at the edge of
Yeah.
the frame. Like
Yes. Yeah. Actually, so literally the first Batu bound that I ever did in my life, that I didn't know what I was doing.
okay,
I was really into the comic books when I was in high school, and I was really into the novels. And I had the graphic novel adaptation of the Heir to the Empire and, The Last
okay,
Command, and those three books. Um, and in the artwork for the graphic novel, there's a lot of really sleek jumpsuits with a vest over it.
okay.
And I really like took that. So it's like mid 90s, well, like later 90s, last century. and um and
The
I was like,
1900s.
I know. And then I told my younger kid the other day that we were born in the 1900s. He had no idea what I
Yeah,
was talking about. But I went to my mom. I was like, I need a fleece vest. And she's like, oh, why? And I was like, my biology classroom's really cold. I need a fleece vest. Like, I all of a sudden, like, in my head, I wanted, and so I had like a black turtleneck and black pants and like this gray fleece vest. And in
yeah,
my mind, and I had like super long hair, and I would braid it and I would put it up. And in my mind, I was like, I'm not Leia, but I'm that universe. And I was like, yeah,
absolutely.
I may as well tell myself this story in my head, because high school's boring as heck, right? And I was just like, that became my first Batu bound. And 20 years later, I'm going,
And
oh
it's
my
fun to
gosh,
kind of
I'm
like
finally doing it.
you're kind of hiding a
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
yeah, and it's
Yeah.
fun that you're
So
kind of
so
like
I
hiding. You're like amongst the others, and like getting away
uh-huh.
with like this costume in the real world.
Yeah. Yeah, right? Like, nobody knew, right? I was just going to class like normal and happened to be in this like micro fleece zip up vest. I did not take the zipper off.
That's okay. It's
But
okay.
yeah, you know. But yeah, I think a lot of people have been wanting that, like, how do I, since 1977, like, how do I become part of that? And we've finally been given these opportunities to do it. So,
And I think it's given way to, I mean, because a lot of people can't go to,
mhm,
like geographically, can't go
yeah.
to Galaxy's Edge, can't go to Batu, can't go, weren't able to go to the Star Cruiser. Um,
Mhm.
but I think the existence of both of them has sort of has really given way to like building your own character. And I've seen a lot of people that have done
Yeah.
cosplay for years and years and
Yeah.
years now kind of turning and saying like, oh, wait a minute, like here's an additional costume that I can build, and it could be
Yeah.
just something that I've created myself. Obviously the Mandos were always, I think,
Yeah.
original characters, right? But
Yeah.
because they're, there are many.
Yes.
They are a family. um but I think people are now. I don't know. I've seen a lot of
Yeah.
people on Instagram that are
Yeah.
established cosplayers,
Yes.
even professional in some capacity, and have now said like, I'm gonna build my own like character now, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, so there's something's happening, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. And
It's
I love that
awakening.
there's background stories, and then there's these informed choices of like, oh well, what would the fabric be, what would the cut be, and because what will this clothing be used for, like what capacity is it going to be used in. And I think yeah, like that definitely builds the story, right? And
Yeah,
I think that people are, yeah, they're inspired because of this ability to potentially, not on Star Cruiser, but if I was, this is what I would
yeah.
wear. Right. Yeah. In everyday life. So, yeah.
Um, Yeah, so tell me, like, since we're talking about like
Yeah.
original characters and whatnot, like,
Yeah.
finally tell me your story. No, I'm kidding.
Oh my gosh, really. I know. And I've been I actually I struggled with this about a year
Your
ago. Oh
membership
no,
is
just be
is your
I know.
membership is on the bubble right now.
I struggled with it because I was like, I had a hard time. I know, okay. I had a hard time
Just
coming up
kidding.
with I had a story for the first time or the second time that my family went when I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna Batu bound." And I got from, Mike, Total Closet Nerd, I got these cool little acrylic name, like, ID badges,
Yeah.
and they're engraved, but they're these cool acrylic colors that they're neon, so they kind of almost glow. They're really cool. And I made one for each member of my family. I made up Star Wars names for all of them, and I made this whole backstory in my head. And none of them, I mean, the little guy was too young to care, but the older one and my husband were like,
Okay.
"Okay." And I'm like, "Really? Come on, you guys, come on." And so, like, they didn't really wanna play with me, so that character didn't that was where Kate, my name, Kate Ryder, is actually my
Yeah.
Star Wars name, but it's, like, that's where it came from, was, like, I named that character for then. And I literally had a backstory and this is before Andor. So, I
Yeah.
was originally from, um, Chandrelia, and, I had parents that had been in the antiques, were, like, antiques experts,
Okay.
but I was, like, a rebellious younger person and had, like, left to join, some
Makes
other
perfect
to,
sense.
like, see the galaxy, to, like, join some other cause, right? And became a spy, but then moved back to Chandrelia to, like, kinda open up um, this antiques with, like, kind of a dive bar attached to it, like
Yeah.
on an island on the outskirts, to kind of also be this underground hub for, um, smugglers or for people who had information for, whichever cause I was working with. So that was
Perfect.
kind of my original thing, but then I wanted to kind of expand that once Burgundy Squadron started, and once I decided, well, my character is a spy with Burgundy Squadron, and she has all these varying fashions because she's dropped into all these different scenarios. Like, you need somebody to blend in, you send her, right? And it's not necessarily like she's not a fighter, but she's an information gatherer, and she's
Yeah.
somebody who can get in close to people. And part of that is because I literally have been told so many times in my life that I look just like someone that somebody knows, right? Like I've had a city bus pull over. He wasn't even at a bus stop. He stopped the bus like on the street corner and like opened the door. He's like, "Hey, are you so and so?" I'm like, "No, I'm
No.
not." And he's like, "Are you related to so and so?" I'm like, "No, I'm not." You know, and like so like I have this face where for some reason it's like this melding pot of, you know,
Yeah. So that
like
fits. That
where like
fits
at
perfectly.
different angles people think I'm a different person. So that is what that really came from. She's this person that kind of can read a culture, can read a vibe, and just like blend into it, right?
Yeah.
And then I kind of went a little bit further, and then I was like, oh, but you know what? I kind of want this story of like she finds out she's actually adopted and
Okay.
why, and like then you know, and then that was the backstory that I kind of tried to tie in. Maybe she had a parent who was an exiled Jedi that she never knew or something like that, and then you know, and that kind of built out. She
Right.
doesn't want to be a Jedi. She
Right.
actually is kind of against it, like doesn't, because me as a cosplayer or as a Star Wars fan, I would never follow the Jedi Order. It's just not my thing.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
and
Same.
I think that maybe, yeah, I know, and we've talked about this, and I think that maybe that's kind of an interesting conversation to have of like, really, why wouldn't you want to be a Jedi? Everyone wants to be a Jedi. Well, maybe I don't agree with it. Maybe it's not like that's not for me. Like this is what's for me. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of a little offshoot of the story of maybe she has this conflict of like reconciling with like, well, do I agree with that? Like, you know. Yeah.
I
So
think,
that's
I mean, I think because they're so because they're so popular, and obviously that's usually like the main character
yeah.
is like, um everyone kind of starts there of like,
Yeah.
okay, maybe I should be some kind of Jedi or something, right?
Right.
But I also had like, in my very early stages of like building out like my OC, where I left the order, and I left the order for love. And I did this, like I told my wife, she's sitting
Yes.
right over there, which is like great. I told her, and like she had made me this bracelet, and that was like part
Okay.
of my costume, and they kind of resemble like Padawan beads. So I was like, oh, this is perfect. It'll fit right on my belt. Like,
Yeah.
it'll blend right into the costume and everything. But that was like written in the story that, um, it came from a family that was very loyal to family.
Okay.
And in the Jedi Order, you have to sort of give up those ties, and
Hmm.
wasn't like, it wasn't willing to do it. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That was part of my like, because I actually have two brothers. I have the brother that came to Batu with us, and then we have a younger brother who is a farmer who doesn't leave his 80-acre farm very often. And I was like, how do I write them in? And when my brother went to Batu, he built a lightsaber, and that's where it came from. That's why I was like, what if I found this long lost brother who found out that he
Right.
was force sensitive in this era of Rey trying to like revamp the Jedi in some way we don't know. And so what if she struggles with this? Like, I found this brother, I have this other brother, we don't know where it is, and then she's not really sure, like, well, I don't agree with the Jedi, but I want to be we're family, we should be, on the same side. And then they find out their other brother is actually ex-imperial, because
Okay.
really, so my brother lives in Marquette, Michigan, where there are some very well-known cosplayers up there, right? In their stormtrooper gear, and I'm always like, how come you haven't built a stormtrooper kit yet?
Right.
Right. But that is kind of part of her backstory of like, maybe they find out, oh, we have another brother, we need to go find him. And then the shock of, oh my God, he's ex-imperial. Like, holy cow. Like, how do we reconcile this? Right. Like, yeah, I like that family tie is part of it. So I love, I love that people are building so many like deep levels of backstories, and then they evolve, right? That's so
Yeah.
fascinating, because I know that some people did that even going on Starcruiser. They went in being like, this is who I am, and then they had experiences on Starcruiser that they're like, oh, hold on, wait a minute,
I
maybe
can work something
that's
else.
who
Yeah.
I am. Yeah, maybe there's this growth of this character, and then they've changed their opinion on something. So I think that's fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. I think stories, always should evolve, and like, no one's going to hit it out of the park on the first
Yeah,
draft. There's
yeah,
always
right,
gonna be people that
totally.
have
Oh, I know.
I've read many, obviously, like, people send me their stories
Yes.
so I've read so many stories, and um I'm always excited and like surprised by how creative like they can
Mhm.
be, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some are
Definitely.
and some are even just a few sentences, but they're poignant, very
Yeah.
clear sentences, and it's like, oh, this is perfect. Like
Yeah.
tells so much of a story in so little, and it feeds into the actual character overall. And like, I think people are doing a great job.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Becoming characters in Star Wars. It's amazing. So
And that's all thanks to,
yeah.
well, not all thanks to, I think it's that thanks to Star Wars, but I think, as the topic of this episode, I think, I think Batu and the Star Cruiser had a huge impact and influx into people building their own stories and making their own characters.
Yeah. Absolutely. So yeah. Should we wrap that one up? We think
I
like
think so.
yeah, I'm sure we'll like in future episodes we're always going to be like, oh, like we were talking about in that episode, but I think
Yeah, we'll
that's where
keep
we're
that.
at for now, for sure. And if you're following us like on our Instagram or something like that, tell us about your original character. Like, do you have one? Are you working on one? Like how are you choosing what they're wearing? Like what is their job and how's that impacting the wardrobe? I'm curious to know. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
I'm always curious.
Yeah, I know.
Let me know.
Talk to us. We want to hear it.
All
So
right, and
awesome.
that's it for this episode.
Yeah.
We'll see you on the next one.
Yeah.
You can find me at Billy Maddox on Instagram.
Yeah.
Kate.
I am Kate Ryder on Instagram. It's one scavenger's wardrobe with the underscores in between the words. So, and you can find us jointly at Off the Rack Rebellion, just with periods in between on Instagram. So, all
And
right.
as always, thank you so much to the Dad Batch for bringing us into the family and folding us
Absolutely.
in, giving us this opportunity to like tell our stories while we talk about you telling your stories.
Absolutely. Yeah. And thanks to Rami, our producer,
Yeah,
and for tapping us on the shoulder, bringing us in.
yeah.
So awesome. Thank you. Bye.